Hello, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we will be delving into the dark and twisted life of one of America's most notorious serial killers, H. Holmes. Born Herman Webster Mudgett,
Henry Howard Holmes.
He later assumed the sinister alias of Dr. Henry Howard Holmes. Holmes is infamous for his murder castle, a three-story building that he designed and built to carry out his gruesome crimes during the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago. Join us as we take an in-depth look into the life, crimes, and ultimate downfall of H. Holmes. Early life. Herman Webster Mudgett was born on May 16, 1861, in Gilmanton, New Hampshire, to devout Methodist parents Levi and Theodate Mudgett. He had two older siblings, Ellen and Arthur. Herman's father was a strict disciplinarian, and there have been accounts suggesting that he was physically abusive toward his family. Despite his difficult childhood, Herman was known for his intelligence and academic aptitude. However, he displayed an unusual fascination with dissection and taxidermy from a young age, even going as far as dissecting animals he found or caught. In 1878, Mudgett enrolled at the University of Vermont to study medicine, but he found the program inadequate and transferred to the University of Michigan's medical school a year later. It was during his time at medical school that Mudgett began developing his criminal instincts. He stole cadavers from the school's laboratory, disfigured them, and then claimed they were victims of accidents to collect insurance money. This would be the start of a lifelong pattern of fraud and deception. Chicago and the birth of H. Holmes. After graduating from medical school in 1884, Mudgett moved to Chicago, where he assumed the alias Dr. H. Holmes. He found employment at a pharmacy in the city's Englewood neighborhood. The pharmacy was owned by Dr. Elizabeth S. Holton and her husband.
You're here to take in the exposition.
The fair, yes, but that's not all.
Who were an elderly couple. Holmes quickly gained their trust and managed to acquire the pharmacy when the couple mysteriously disappeared without a trace. With the pharmacy under his control, Holmes purchased a lot across the street and began construction on a three-story building. The ground floor was dedicated to retail spaces, including a new pharmacy. The upper floors contained a labyrinth of rooms, hallways, and staircases that would later become the infamous Murder Castle. The Murder Castle, completed in 1893, was a masterpiece of deception and horror. The building contained over 100 rooms, with many designed explicitly for torture. Some of these rooms were soundproofed, while others had gas lines that Holmes could use to asphyxiate his victims. There were also trapdoors, secret passageways, and chutes that led to the basement, where Holmes would dispose of the bodies. The basement itself was a chamber of horrors, complete with a dissecting table, an incinerator, and vats of acid and quicklime for dissolving flesh and bones. Holmes would often strip the flesh from his victims' bodies,
removal of the ear of a victim,
clean the bones, and assemble the skeletons for sale to medical schools or private collectors. Holmes' tenants, employees, and lovers, mostly young women, were the primary victims of his sadistic crimes. They were lured into his clutches by promises of affordable lodging or employment opportunities.
Probably, if we had done a little bit of an investigation back then.
The exact number of Holmes' victims remains unknown, with estimates ranging from 20 to 200. World's Columbian Exposition. The 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago brought thousands of visitors to the city, providing Holmes with the perfect hunting ground. The fair celebrated the 400th anniversary of Christopher Columbus' arrival in the New World and showcased innovations in art, science, and technology from around the world. As people flocked to the fair, Holmes capitalized on the opportunity to lure unsuspecting victims to his lair by advertising rooms for rent or offering employment at his pharmacy. Many individuals, particularly young women, were drawn to Holmes by his charm and apparent kindness. However, once they entered the Murder Castle, they would become entangled in his web of deception and cruelty. As the fair drew to a close, the true extent of Holmes' crimes remained hidden behind the walls of his nightmarish creation. Capture and trial. Holmes' murderous spree eventually came to an end when he was arrested in 1894 for insurance fraud, which involved faking his own death and that of his accomplice, Benjamin Pitezel. While investigating his crimes, authorities discovered the horrors of the murder castle. They found rooms filled with the remains of his victims, surgical equipment, and even a crematorium. Holmes was extradited to Philadelphia to stand trial for the murder of Benjamin Pitezel. During this time, he also confessed to several other murders, though many believe that he understated the true number of his victims. The trial began on October 28, 1895, and the press and public were captivated by the grisly details of the case. Holmes, ever the manipulator, attempted to charm the jury and the court, but his efforts were in vain. On November 2, 1895, after only 2 hours of deliberation, the jury found H. Holmes guilty of murder. He was sentenced to death by hanging. Confession and execution. In the months leading up to his execution, Holmes penned a detailed confession for the press. However, it was filled with inconsistencies and contradictions, leaving the true scope of his crimes shrouded in mystery. Holmes seemed to revel in the confusion and fear he created, even from behind bars. On May 7, 1896, H. Holmes was hanged at Moyamensing Prison in Philadelphia. His neck did not break instantly during the hanging, and it took him nearly 20 minutes to die by slow strangulation.
Holmes and Pitezel carried on as friends into the following year.
Holmes' death marked the end of his reign of terror, but his macabre legacy would live on for generations. Legacy and impact. H. Holmes' crimes left an indelible mark on American history. His story has been retold in various forms, from books and documentaries to television series and podcasts. Erik Larson's best-selling novel, The Devil in the White City, brought renewed attention to Holmes and his heinous acts, even sparking interest in a film adaptation with Leonardo DiCaprio attached to play the role of Holmes. Holmes' case also had a profound impact on criminal investigations. His capture and trial highlighted the importance of forensic evidence in solving cases and brought attention to the evolving field of forensic science. The horrors of the murder castle also sparked a conversation about the safety of boarding houses and hotels, leading to stricter regulations and building codes in many cities. In addition, the H. Holmes story led to a greater public awareness of the dangers posed by charming and manipulative individuals who may harbor dark secrets. The cautionary tale serves as a reminder to always be vigilant and to trust our instincts when something doesn't feel quite right. Conclusion. The chilling tale of H. Holmes and his murder castle serves as a grim reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of even the most charming individuals. As we reflect on his life and crimes, we are reminded of the importance of vigilance and the critical role of forensics and law enforcement in bringing criminals to justice. As we continue to dissect the life and crimes of H. Holmes, it's essential to recognize the cultural significance of his story and its impact on popular culture. The macabre fascination with serial killers has led to the creation of various films, television shows, books, and podcasts.
A schematic of the murder castle,
each exploring the twisted minds of these criminals. Holmes' story, in particular, has captivated audiences due to its unique setting, the elaborate nature of his crimes, and the sheer depravity he exhibited. In a way, our fascination with figures like Holmes is a reflection of society's broader interest in true crime and our desire to understand the motivations behind such heinous acts. This interest serves as a kind of psychological safety valve, allowing us to confront our deepest fears and anxieties about human nature in a controlled environment.
A thrashing on Ingalls that left him with a black eye.
By examining the actions of individuals like Holmes, we attempt to make sense of the seemingly senseless and reaffirm our belief in the fundamental goodness of humanity. This often blurs the lines between fact and fantasy. As we consume these stories, it's crucial to remember the very real victims of Holmes' crimes and the families that continue to bear the weight of their loss. The sensationalized aspects of his story should not overshadow the tragic consequences of his actions. If you have any suggestions for future topics, questions about H.H. Holmes, or if you'd like to share your thoughts on the impact of his story on our understanding of criminal psychology,
done a little bit of investigation back then,
and the pursuit of justice, please feel free to leave a comment below. We look forward to continuing our journey into the fascinating and sometimes terrifying aspects of our world together. Until our next adventure, keep learning, stay vigilant, and never stop exploring. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next exploration into the darker side of history. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.